So, guess who I've been in contact with?
Don't know.
Somebody we haven't heard from in a while.
A listener?
Yes.
Haven't heard from in a while. That's a few people. Blood Sparrow? Haven't
Got
heard
it
from
in
her.
one.
I did?
Mhm.
Wow. Huh.
Yep. Yeah, because
Which,
Mark started commenting again, so I knew you knew it wasn't him. Yeah, she contacted me over Twitter, which took me a while to figure out because I don't go to Twitter except to post stuff about the podcast. Yeah, she had some personal stuff, and then enough time went by that she was like, and I've had this many times where like enough time goes by that you don't contact a friend that like you feel weird about contacting a friend. And
mhm.
she especially because she like the Briar Rose thing happened and then she didn't talk to you or else, so she was like really nervous about that. And then the longer that goes, the harder that is to do anything about. But I told her like we're all cool and we just had
Yep.
been a little worried, and I'm glad to know she's okay.
Yep.
Trying to talk her into coming back and listening to the podcast again, but
Hmm.
which she might. She said she was thinking about it. I
Well, I
don't
hope
know
she
what
does.
her deal is right now. But yeah, so that was cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Find out she was out there doing good. Meanwhile, we've known where Azure Talon was the whole time. I mean, that doesn't seem fair at all.
I talked to a person today that I haven't talked to in like almost 10 years. She's a person that I met through like the Lost Theories forums and stuff back
Oh
in the
my
day.
god.
No, she's a really cool person. In fact, she's the Democrat running for governor in North Dakota.
All right.
I mean, Jazz told me because Jazz was her friend also because that's how I met Jazz. Same way.
You met Jazz through Lost Theories.
Yep.
God damn it.
And so she told me about Shelley. She told me about her that she was the Democratic nominee for running for governor for North Dakota. I said, what? I said, well, I haven't talked to her in like almost 10 years. And I think as I talked to Jazz, I realized it was probably like because of Facebook. Like I was friends with Shelley on Facebook, but I got off Facebook like 9 years ago. And I just haven't really talked to Shelley since.
So are we potentially harming her campaign by making it known that the Democratic gubernatorial candidate was once into Lost fan theories enough that she hung out on forums about them? I mean, she's fine. 6 people listen to our podcast,
Yes,
and as far as I know, none of them are in North Dakota.
I was just going to say that.
I still feel like this could harm a campaign if like a real source put it out there.
No, I doubt Oppo Research is going to discover us. But you're right. Maybe I shouldn't have mentioned it. But
yeah.
I did.
Could be an Icetown thing all over again.
I haven't talked to her for so long, and it was really. What I did was I sent her an email on an old email address congratulating her because I hadn't known. And she checks this old email sometimes, and so she got back to me and said, "Oh yeah, let's catch up sometime." So it's really great to talk to her, and I was glad to get a chance.
Now,
but that's also
did you
really
lose
cool
touch before Lost finished?
No.
Okay, because I was gonna say you'd have a lot to catch up on if you're like, oh my god.
No, it's one of those things.
I'm still angry a decade later. Also, it feels like a significant thing in my life was a complete waste of time now.
Well, it wasn't a waste of time.
It was because they crapped all over it. Like,
no.
You guys invented a better version of Lost.
Well, that's true, but
right.
That might be true, but some of the conversations we had weren't really about Lost so much. They were about other issues, philosophical things that were brought up because of watching Lost, right? People would see it and they'd go, does anyone understand what this, that, or the other thing is? Or someone would think that some philosopher or some scientist influenced the episode and would bring that up, and that would make people want to talk about that philosopher or scientist that they hadn't heard about. So there was a lot of talk. There was a lot of talk about subjects that didn't really have anything to do with Lost, and then you made friends with these people on broader things, not just about
I
Lost.
guess
So when
I
Lost was
guess
over, you were still friends.
I guess if it brought jazz to us, it can't all have been bad. But it
Yeah.
didn't bring Azure Talent to us, right? That's not where you met him.
No, I only know him because of the podcast.
All right.
But no, I mean, jazz is a perfect example because obviously we talked about tons of other things, not just Lost, and that's how we became such good friends. So
I see.
But
hello, everyone.
Sorry to delay the hello.
Welcome to. This is earlier than usual, I would say.
Yeah, I guess it is.
Welcome to the Magical Talking Hat podcast, the only podcast in the world that began as a fan page on MySpace to the new wave band Kajagoogoo.
Oh. Huh. I must have come in after that.
Yeah, it was before your time.
Yeah. Some guy named Joel was with you before, and then I replaced him.
I feel like you're making a reference.
I don't know.
With that name. I don't know.
Like it.
I don't get what it is. So.
Mystery Science Theater is what I'm thinking. Is
that
right?
Okay, yeah. And so then you're Mike?
I guess. I guess. I don't know.
I am a bunch of wisecracking robots. That seems pretty on point.
Okay, I don't know what I was
I'm
doing
Tony.
And I'm William, and this is episode 483.
Podcast roll call. William. Tony. Tom Server. Wait, no, that's not it. Producer. No, wait, that doesn't work either. What number is it?
483,
all right.
I believe.
My eyes aren't opening all the way because I'm incredibly tired today.
Oh.
I did not get a lot of sleep last night. But for the first time in years, the reason I didn't get a lot of sleep is because I stayed up too late reading a book.
Oh.
What were you reading? In ages.
What were you reading?
Well, the problem is it's got about 3 different titles depending on when it was published. It is my first time reading Octavia Butler. Oh. And it is a novel that is technically called Dawn. It is technically the first volume in the Xenogenesis series, which has actually been put together into an omnibus, which is what I'm reading it from, called Lilith's Brood.
Mm.
But yeah, the original, it was called Dawn, and it's by Octavia Butler, who I haven't read and I've been meaning to read forever, never. So I recently made an account on Goodreads.
Okay.
Which I had not done before, and I had not even really understood what Goodreads was.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the thing. People are like, oh, I found out on Goodreads. I got the sense that it was something related to helping you find things to read.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know. And it's basically just a database with some, I'm not going to say really strong algorithms, but I'm really into it now, though. So you go to Goodreads, you make an account, and it starts flinging books at you. Like, hey, well, first it's like, pick some genres that you like. And you're like, okay. And then it starts flinging books. You want to read this? You want to read this? You want to read this? And of course, what you do at the beginning is you're like, I did read that. They're like, then rate it 1 to 5 stars. And so you do that. And then it's like, oh, you felt this way about this and this way about this. And so maybe this.
Yeah.
And it wants you to make friends with people. So it's like, oh, you and your friend agree on this kind of thing. So they also like this. Maybe you'd like that and stuff like that. And you can go on there and you can mark, like, I've already read that. You can rate it. You can even write real reviews for it. But you can also mark it as, I want to read this. And so later when you finish a book, you're like, what should I read next? Go to Goodreads, look at your want to read list and be like, oh yeah. And it was really cool. But when I first started, I was like, crap, it thinks I just like young adult. Because it's throwing books at me that are very like prevalent. And there's a lot of books I read long enough ago that I remember liking them, but like I can't give you specifics, and I can't give you like, this book in the series was really good and this one was, I just know I liked the series or whatever. So first thing out of the gate, Goodreads is like, oh, he gave 3 stars to Harry Potter and to Chronicles of Narnia, because it was tossing, and I was just like, oh crap, now it's just tossing me nothing but these young, and I'm like, no. So I'm like, quick, what's some horror I've read? What's some grown-up books I've read, you know?
Right.
But I think I'm getting down, and yeah, it's giving me a list of quite a few, and it reminded me about Octavia Butler, who I keep forgetting that I've been wanting to read. So what happened is I finished the Sorcery, the fifth Discworld book.
Yeah.
And next, I knew what I was going to read next, which is the newest one from N.K. Jemisin, who is my favorite author ever. So I bought it, getting ready, and then I see that it is volume 1 of a trilogy, of which the other 2 haven't been written yet. And I'm like, God damn it. So gotta wait on that one.
Yeah.
So then I was like, what should I read? And I had been watching. Are you familiar with, you wouldn't be, other people might be, an author by the name of China Miéville?
No.
Very cool name. It's just a white dude from Britain. His name is probably John Smith or something, but his pen name is China Miéville. He's been writing some cool stuff that's sort of, it's in a fantasy realm, but he's been doing a lot of like modern day things with a little bit of fantasy in them lately and stuff like that. And I had read a book of his called Perdido Street Station a long time ago that I liked. And he had written this book called The City and the City that I didn't know too much about, but I kind of did. And I have BritBox as a streaming service. Well, BritBox did a miniseries of that book. And I was like, ooh. So I have been watching that. And I watched the whole thing of that. And so that was getting me more into the mindset of maybe I'd read more of his stuff. And I was looking at it. And I do recommend that miniseries if anybody can get a hold of it, by the way. It's a BBC miniseries originally, so Craig can probably find a way to watch it. It doesn't end well. I had a friend who read the book and didn't like the book, and it was because of the ending. But I still think it's worth it just because it's a super cool premise. It's set in essentially the modern day world. And then there's these 2 cities that exist somewhere sort of Arabian Peninsula, Southern Europe. So it's never specified, but somewhere sort of around there. And they're 2 separate nation states. But the thing is, they occupy the same temporal space. They're over the top of each other, like in dimensionally speaking. And they're very much warring factions. Like, everybody as a kid is taught not to see anything from the city they aren't in, and vice versa, to the degree that it's like against the law to be actively paying attention to or respond to anything in the other city, even when you're like on a street and like both cities have this street in it. You have to not watch the other thing, and there's this secret police that if you breach between the 2, like they take you away and you're never heard from again and stuff like that. And the whole thing's a cop murder story of a woman from one of the cities whose body ends up in the other city, and they have to look into it. And it's just a really neat premise that I really enjoy. The end of the book undermines it to the point where I'm like, you could have told this exact same story without that premise, and it really wouldn't have changed much. So I was disappointed in that, but it was but I still thought it was worth it as a miniseries. And it's only 4 episodes, so if somebody has a chance to see that, The City and the City. But yeah, so I was looking at some China Miéville, and of course my friend Lisa, who's the librarian and the reading nut, as soon as she finds out I'm on Goodreads, she's linking me up, and she keeps tossing things at me. She's in my gaming group, and we didn't get as much gaming done because she's like, oh, this author, you got to read her, and so a bunch of stuff. So I almost went for one of her current recommendations, and I will do it soon, but for right now I'm doing Octavia Butler, Dawn. And then after that's going to be the next Discworld novel, which is Weird Sisters, which everybody raves about. People love that book, so I'm excited about that.
You've never read it?
No, I'm reading the Discworld novels now. Every other book, remember? And I did the 5th, so next will be the 6th.
Oh, yeah.
Technically, I read the first one years ago by itself and did not like it. And I still don't like it. But
yeah, that's what I keep thinking. I keep forgetting you said you read one and didn't like it. I keep forgetting that.
And part of it is it's early days for him. I mean, he got better by the third. The third one's amazing. I love the third one. The first two work better as a single book, but also are weaker than later stuff. But I'm enjoying those, and yeah, and it works pretty well. It's just every other book will be one of those. So that's nice. How's your week been?
Well, I told you I had a doctor's appointment.
You did tell me that. I wasn't gonna bring that up.
No, I wouldn't normally, but it was weird because I think, and the reason I'm bringing it up on the podcast is I think I've talked about this before. I was born with a bad ticker. I've got a couple bad valves, or I thought I had a couple bad valves. Turns out one of my valves is okay.
Was this like a profiling thing? They're like, I know that kind of valve. That kind of valve is always a bad apple.
I think I asked the person who gave me an echocardiogram. I asked them. I said, the doctor told me, and apparently he knew this 5 years ago, but he didn't tell me 5 years ago. Which, okay, the last time
I'm a bad doctor.
No. Okay, wait a minute. That's probably mostly my fault. The last time I saw him was 5 years ago. I was supposed to see him again like 3 years ago. And I think he would have told me then. Because see, what happened was I saw him 5 years ago and I got an echocardiogram. And I think the way we left it was, if there's no reason, if you look at the echocardiogram, and you don't find anything that you need to tell me about, well, then I'll just see you in a couple of years and we can talk about it then.
Where there's no smoke, there's no fire.
Right. So I think he probably would have told me that the next time I saw him, because he wanted me to see him, skip a year and see him again in a year. But then I didn't. I canceled that appointment.
You were doctors are for pussies. Screw this. Prep.
No, there was a reason that I'm not going to get into, but I was going to reschedule it and then I just forgot. So I scheduled this appointment, which I scheduled earlier, but because of the pandemic, I had to move it. So this is actually later than I was.
Was it at the university?
No, it's Mercy.
Because I'm overdue for one of mine, but it's at family practice at the university. And I'm like, I'm not going there right now.
Well, I mean, they had specific seats you could sit in. You couldn't sit right next to anybody. You couldn't come in if you weren't going to wear a mask. A few people tried to cheat on the mask and someone came right out and said, hey, put your mask back on. They were being real sticklers and there weren't very many people there. Mm. So I went in today and today he told me that that one of my valves was just fine. It's my aortic valve that's messed up, and that's always been kind of the worst bit. Of the two valves that have a problem, the aortic valve was the one that was the bigger problem. But I was always told that if I had them replaced, which will happen sometime in my 60s, I don't know, that they would have to replace them both. And my dad has had a mitral valve replaced for a similar thing, and my mom's mom had a mitral valve replaced for a similar thing. But it turns out that even though there's mitral valve problems on my mom's side and my dad's side, that's not the valve I have a problem with. It was just the aortic valve. So,
okay, and they haven't had their aortic valves replaced?
No.
Oh, shoot. I was going to say, like, your mom's mom, you could get that valve, and it could be like a family heirloom. It's the same mitral valve that my grandmother had.
No, I don't remember. I think she had, because you can get mechanical ones and pig
holographic ones. Oh, okay.
And I think she had a mechanical one. Dad has a.
Isn't she was she an Iowa lady? Like, that's not appropriate. Pig all the way.
I don't know. Well, and that's another interesting thing is while I was talking to my doctor today.
I love when my nonsense brings up what you think are interesting points.
Well, because he and I haven't talked about what kind of valve I might eventually get. It's going to have to happen someday. But he brought up the valve that I might get, and he only talked about the mechanical one. So it's like, that's interesting.
Maybe he's just got a 3D printer in the back, and it saves him cost.
I don't know. I mean, there's I haven't really thought about it because it's always seemed so far away. But I mean, it's like maybe 15, 10. Could be only 10 years away? So now I kind of have
Why
to
does
think
it
about
sound like the ice cream man is in your neighborhood?
it. Because my what? Well, for one thing, the ice cream man has been in our neighborhood for
Ours
like
has too. That's why I brought it up.
the last month. It's weird. My washing machine is just outside my bedroom door.
Oh, that's like my mom's washing. My mom's washing machine like sings songs to tell you things, and like different ones mean freaks me the hell
But
out.
my door is closed and the door in front of the washing machine's closed, and you still heard that? Wow.
I caught enough to make me think it was Ice Cream Man. To be fair, I haven't had supper, so
But to me,
I would
this is
love the
good.
Ice Cream Man to show up.
To me, this is good news because it's like,
Well,
oh,
yeah.
so whenever this happens, they're just going to have to worry about one valve. So that's cool. But also, I wasn't supposed to have an echocardiogram today. They kind of rushed it because he was actually concerned that I hadn't been in for 5 years. He thought, oh, this might
That
be a
makes
problem.
sense.
So they rushed the echo, and then he came back and said, I mean, there's a certain amount of change and degradation in the valve that we would have expected after 5 years, and you're not even really close to that. So it's cool. You're fine. He still wants to see me next year. He doesn't want to skip a year, but I think that's more because he doesn't want me to not come back for 5 years
this
again.
Is your punishment.
Yeah, I don't think he thinks it's going to be that much worse in a year. I think he thinks that he's got to get me on a year schedule or else I'll disappear for a decade, which that's probably a good point.
Because you're all like, doctors are for wimps.
No.
I'm a hard man.
No. It wasn't anything like that. It's just my stupid absent-mindedness. After I had to cancel. I had to cancel. I called them and asked them if I should cancel, and they said, yeah, you should, but call us back when you're available again. And then I just didn't.
In less than 3 years.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so it was actually a really good appointment, and it's especially good because I thought that I was going to go in. It was going to be an hour of them, because that's another thing, is because I hadn't been there for so long, they actually had to treat me like a new patient, and it was just going to be like a first patient consult, and then they would have to set up my echo some other time. But none of that. No, they actually found a way to get my echo done, so now I don't have to go back for a year.
Somebody vouched for you. They're like, I've seen him. He's all right.
No, what happened was someone didn't show up for their appointment.
Ooh.
So someone pulled a William, and I got their spot.
Yeah. This is one of those. This is a time loop thing. Maybe you canceled your appointment, and that's the one that you got.
Yeah, I showed up for the appointment that I didn't show up to, and so it all worked out. I don't know.
And then guys come out of the walls and they shoot early William because they're like, no, paradox.
Yeah, I wouldn't normally talk about such things, but I'm sure I've said on the podcast, I've talked about.
Oh yeah, we know your heart's crap. Yeah, no, that's come up before.
So, and I'm sure I said that I had 2 heart valve problems, but it turns out I don't.
I didn't listen to that much detail. I just knew your heart was.
I'm sure I know that. So I only have 1 bad valve, so that's good. And it's probably not going to need anything done to it for a long time, so that's good. So I'm happy.
I feel like you're putting normative issues on your valves. Like, why can't they just all be valves? Why do we have to have a bad valve? Like, aren't we all perfectly valves just by existing? It's the valve condition.
Okay.
It's universal.
But one of those valves will be jettisoned before the rest, as I guess.
Because of you and your judgmental civilization.
Is that what it is? Well, you're right. I suppose
just because one valve's different, you're like, fuck that valve. I
suppose instead of being so judgmental about my valves, I should just die.
Live and let eventually. Yeah,
I'll be dead when I'm 65, 66.
I've been telling you to die for years. You never listen to me. You're like, just die.
Yeah. That's probably a good trade-off, to be fair to my valves feelings.
Can I have your valves if you die before me?
Oh, sure.
Sweet. Can I have extra valves?
I wonder. No, that probably couldn't work.
Like, what's that, doctor? I got a problem with the valve. Okay. I want you to go to this storage locker. You're going to see a cooler in there. The blue ice has probably melted, but you should find some valves. One of them is supposedly bad, but the others are good, I've heard. So
one of them has a goatee.
Well, yes.
No, but
one of them keeps tenting its fingers.
Your body would reject any donation from me for sure.
Not money.
Any organ donation. Oh, what if you got my heart and like it started to change your personality? Oh man, you'd be so mad.
It's like the shittiest Twilight Zone ever, where it's like something's come over me. I'm just kind of nice to people and I'm quiet and I don't swear anymore. Don't eat meat. It's weird.
Or let's say I donated my retinas or something, and you go to your wife after you've had surgery and you've recovered, and you'd say, for some reason, no matter what I do, I can't see any pornography. I mean, I bring it up, it's on my computer, but I can't see it. That would be funny.
There's visual description for the blind porn. I'll be fine. I'm not even making that up. That is a category on Pornhub. Pornhub is very big on being accessible.
That's a movie about you getting an organ donated from me and having difficulties is probably a movie that only you and I would enjoy.
It's like a version of The Straight Story, except people really would believe that David Lynch directed it.
I don't know. It's really tickling me to think of it. Anyway, what about your week?
It tickles me to think of you dying also. My week, well, I told you I watched The City in the City. Trish and I finished. No, we didn't finish anything. We hadn't been watching anything. We're actually about halfway through Russian Doll. Did you watch that?
No.
That shit's weird.
I mean, it's part of the reason is it seems like something that could, it's like half seems like something we'd watch and half not.
Well, and
so I've been waiting for people I know to see it and say, oh yeah, you should see this.
Well, and that's the thing. I've known tons of people who say it's awesome.
Oh, okay.
Well, none of them have told me what it is about.
Oh, well. The
internet has accidentally spoiled a certain gimmick to it. That exists. This gimmick has certain iconic examples in media that it has referenced. So I knew about a sort of gimmick. In my head, I think because of the name Russian Doll, which I'm pretty sure is referring to the nesting dolls, but in my head sounded like some sort of weird Black Widow prequel thing. So I genuinely thought it was like a weird, like sci-fi-ish action-y kind of thing. And I think it came out, at least in my head, they both hit me in the zeitgeist at the same time as Maniac. And so, I don't know, I got a bunch of that in my head. I didn't know. No, it's a straight-up comedy. It's just a comedy. Okay. It's a weird comedy. It's got a very odd premise. I think it's good. I think it's very good. It's very odd. They're only half-hour episodes, which is nice. But yeah, we're enjoying it. We finished Space Force. We did finish something. We finished Space Force. Did I talk about that last time?
A little.
That it was done? I mean, have I finished it since then?
Yes. Since then, you have, yes.
All right, so I didn't talk about the end.
No,
it's 100% set up for another season. And it's Netflix, it's John Malkovich, and it's Steve Carell, so I can't imagine it won't get a second season. I think I'm disappointed it's going to get a second season, but I'm still going to watch it. The show is really good when it's good and not so good when it's not good.
Yeah, you said that last time.
And it's very hit and miss. And it doesn't help that it did one of those deals where the season's about to end, so we're going to stick like 5 wacky cliffhangers all together.
Yeah.
And especially if it's like a comedy like this, I'm like, I don't want to see you resolve those. Like that's too much bullshit.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, some good comedies have done that. They've come back and been like, "Isn't it amazing how we wrapped that all up 3 months ago or whatever?" Um, but yeah, I didn't like that. But yeah, it's good. People watch it for yourself and watch more than one episode because the first episode's not that good. But also, you can skip it. Um, oh, this has been difficult for me. As of right now, I'm not playing No Man's Sky anymore.
Okay.
I was in the process of getting my living ship, which I think would be really cool. But there's a lot of crap you have to do, and I just hit the wall on this game. You know how I do that. Like, I
Yeah.
love this game. I love this game. It's getting a little bit. Okay, now I'm sick of this game. Like, I hit the wall on No Man's Sky. It's a great game. I've put 115 hours into it.
Wow.
Highly recommend. I was done. And it's a shame because I want to check out that living ship, but I was done. So, last night, I started playing Control.
Yeah, I've heard of this game. Someone brought it up recently
Me
to me.
too, because it was super duper crazy popular and award winning and shit. And I knew essentially nothing about it, but I
I
bought it a while ago.
I still know nothing about it. I just heard people talking about it.
That's like, there were a couple of intriguing like screenshots from it in some articles, but I never really read the articles because I didn't want to spoil it for myself. So Trish is like, I haven't heard of that game. What's it like? I'm like, I don't know. I just really wanted to buy and play this game.
Mhm.
Um, and it's two games. One of them is really good, and one of them I'm not very good at, and I find that frustrating, but I'm getting better. Because what it is it's an action adventure game,
Okay.
but it's legit. Like, here's a section where you're doing a bunch of real-time combat, then here's a section where you explore and get a lot of clues about the story and stuff like that, and like goes back and forth. They aren't really mixed, they're very discrete in a lot of ways, and the story and the atmosphere is amazing. It is a batshit mind-bending, paranormal, bordering on horror kind of story, with a lot of mystery to it and a lot of just freaky clues you find. I recently found a TV and turned it on, and it was doing this, I think, fake or maybe just haunted kids show with these puppets called the Threshold Kids, and they talk about how their parents died and how the bureau would or would not tell them what that meant, and like then they stare at you on the screen, and it's legit multimedia. Like, it's not graphic. Like, I think they really intercut an actual puppet show,
Oh.
and there's other places where they actually intercut, like the protagonist is this woman, and she's got a very detailed look to her, but there are some cutscenes where I'm like, this is the actual actress that she's
Mm.
based off of, maybe just some light rotoscoping in places.
Mm.
And it's very X-Files paranormal shit. um and you just are dropped in real quick. You've shown up here, and you don't really know what's going on, and you're trying to find out, and you've got a backstory, but you're not willing to talk about it yet. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to get some rad psychic powers. I haven't yet, but like, the combat so far is a lot of third person shooting, and it's hard. And there have been a couple of spots, one in particular, that like last night I had to stop playing because I kept dying, and then this morning I was like, okay, we'll try it again. And frequently in that kind of situation, like the next day, it somehow is easier. No, I died a bunch more, but then I got past that, and the last couple ones haven't been so bad. So I don't know, but I'm super into this story, and the atmosphere of the game, and
So you
all the little correspondences you pick up and stuff. It's very cool.
you play a preset character?
Yes, you play. Yeah, you play a woman named Jessie. I don't remember her last name right now. Fayen or something. I don't know, but yeah,
Okay.
you
Okay.
play. Yeah, because there's a very specific, detailed story in this. Um, and it's you're going to the Federal Bureau of Control, and weirdly it's empty when you get there, and then like things start to happen, and I get super like I get way into these, so like I mean I guess spoiler for the first 5 minutes. You go in and you go and you're picking up because it has little icons where it's something you'll want to check out, so you don't usually miss anything. But I get up to the second floor and it's overlooking the front door where I came in, and there's only one hallway, so I take that hallway, and some things happen, and it kind of goes around a circle, and I end up back at the front, I think, but then I'm like, this opening wasn't here, and the place I went through before is just a wall, and there are 3 paintings on the wall, and one of the paintings is now gone and replaced with an elevator, and I'm looking over the edge, and I'm like, is this did I come in the north door and this is the south door? But like I'm doing this, and Trish is there just messing around on her phone, and I am out loud like, holy shit, the floor plan is changing. Like I'm freaked out about it because I get very into the headspace of it, and Trish doesn't give a shit. But I'm like, no, and I walk all the way back. I'm like, is this the room I was in? This was the room I was in, which means it really did. That wall is now open, and that one's a wall, and this elevator is new. So yeah, it's super freaky. And I'm getting better. The gun combat you have a gun, you eventually get a gun, and that's what you're using to fight with, and it's pretty good, satisfying feel on the combat. I'm just not very good at it, and so I die. But yeah, I'm kind of enjoying that, and I think also there's a shift from No Man's Sky, because No Man's Sky did not exactly require a lot of reflexes and shit.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'll adjust soon. But yeah, I'm doing that. Talked about the new book I was reading. Still not going outside. My game that I'm running is going well. The D&D game I'm playing in is going well. I got my new character, a half-orc fighter, whose name is Caldwell Pliskett IV, but all of his friends and loved ones call him Trog. And he talks like this, and he says, "Hello, new friends." He is
Half
very
orc?
dumb.
What's the other half?
Human.
Oh.
In D&D, whenever you're half something, the other half is human.
Oh.
I guess in D&D, humans like to fuck around. But yeah, he's super friendly, super gullible, and super dumb. Like we've had to homebrew some rules because he's technically dumber than player characters are allowed to be. Mm. And I've made for him. He's just a cheerful guy. But I've made him an incredibly sad backstory, but he's like too dumb to realize how sad his backstory is. So like he was found as a baby in the woods by this childless human couple who adopted him because they didn't think they could have children, but then they ended up having children, and they had 3 boys, and the boys would constantly like pick on him and stuff, but he didn't get that's what it was. He just thought it was like playing and stuff like that. And the family kind of pulled back from him, and eventually they decided they couldn't have this one who wasn't theirs and who was clearly half an orc around, so they told him that it was tradition for the eldest son to go out in the world and make his fortune and not to come back until he was very successful and wealthy. So he left home thinking he was doing tradition, and it was just the way for them to get rid of him. And like he's got a couple of magic items, but she let me reskin them to specific things. So he has this magical maul, but it's just a piece of slagged metal that like is really long on one end, and the story is they tried to apprentice him to a blacksmith, and this was his like first attempt to do anything, and it was so shit that they sent him home. And he's got this medallion that has magical powers, and on it is this ugly like gargoyle face, and that's his littlest brother carving what he said was his face. And Trog like thought that was cute and a sign of love, and what it really was him making fun of him. So he has no idea that the world is making fun of him. So he's just happy and likes to help, and he's a really good fighter and tank. He can beat the crap out of things. So that's handy. Once he finds out they're bad. This is a problem. We wander near this place where there's 2 zombie beholders, which, for those of you not familiar enough with D&D, it's the thing you see on books that covers that there's just a giant eyeball floating there with little tentacles with other eyeballs on them. They are bad news. And these were zombie versions. And so we're hiding in the woods seeing this, and he immediately was like, "Hey, new friends," and like walks out, and people start attacking them, and he's confused as to why they're attacking them. And then finally one of them hits one of his guys and he's like, "You're bad guys," and then he starts fighting them. So they're slowly learning. Like at the beginning of a fight, they'll be like, "Trog, these are not your friends." So that's been helping a little bit, but yeah, he's fine. I like making him really gullible because I figure that's a major opportunity to get into hijinks. People just like tell him things and he goes along with it. So,
right.
But yeah, he's fun. And the Blades in the Dark game is going very well. We've kind of lost one of our players. He is, due to work commitments, most likely not going to be able to play again for at least a couple months. So
that's
a bummer. But
yeah,
otherwise it's going well. They're really good. I got to have one of those things where as the GM I just sit back and watch them all interact in character for like a long extended time, and I thought that was awesome.
That's very fun.
That's how you know they're like there and into it. Yep. How about your week, other than the fact that your heart's not nearly as bad as you thought, though still bad?
We watched a show called Homecoming on Amazon.
Oh, both seasons?
Yeah, both seasons, yeah.
How is that?
Well, I mean, one of the guys behind it, or the guy behind it, I don't know, did Mr. Robot, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I liked Mr. Robot quite a bit. In fact, I'll probably watch it again because I liked it that much.
I keep thinking I want to watch Mr. Robot, but I don't know. I can't be bothered.
And there was definitely that kind of aesthetic and vibe to it, which I did like. I mean, that's probably the biggest reason that we started watching it and really kept watching it. But it didn't, plot-wise and script-wise, it was pretty ordinary. Nothing really happened that you couldn't predict. And it just wasn't.
I was pretty sure I wasn't going to watch it when it first came out. So I went to Wikipedia and read up all the stuff for the first season. And yeah, it didn't seem that interesting. And it also, by the end of the first season, had not explained a lot. And then we started second season, and the main character in the first season was Julia Roberts, and she's just not in it anymore. And now we got Janelle Monáe, and I'm like, so is this a retool or like what the? So
oh no! It's one of those things where, I mean, they planned it this way. I'm quite sure. It's like, It's like, what if we took an anthology series where it's a whole different set of actors each time, like True Crime or something like that, but we had the next season continue the plot of the first season.
So the first season was its own story, and now this season is like 4 years later or something, but the same place.
No, it picks up pretty much right off where the other one left off.
Okay.
But now, yeah, Julia, the character that Julia Roberts, like if they hadn't gotten a second season, the first season would have been completely self-contained, really.
Okay.
So the second season happens, and there's something that happens in the first episode that makes reference to the end of the first season, and then it just goes from there. And it's just Monáe or whatever, and her whatever's going on with her. And the way the second season ended, it seems to me, she's not going to be in the third season if they have one. It's gonna be someone else. And there were people in the second season who were also in the first season, so they don't change everything. They just change
Julia Roberts.
Well, whoever the main character is, I guess.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of an interesting idea, but it's just like I said, the plots and the scripts, they're not bad or anything, but if if you're used to watching this kind of thing, nothing surprises you. There's nothing
Kind of
particular.
pedestrian, as it were.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
particularly interesting. The performances are fine, and the way it's shot and all that stuff is kind of fun. But it's like, why couldn't you go that extra step and actually make like an interesting plot and an interesting
Yeah.
character arc? I mean, why did you spend so much time heavily crafting these things, which is cool and fun, but like, why did you neglect things like basic story and scripted? And like I said, the script's not bad. It's just not like great, like you would expect with all the other well-crafted stuff. You'd expect, other pieces to be crafted well too. I mean, I wouldn't say don't watch it, but I can't really tell people, oh, you have to watch this, because it's Mr. Robot was really good. I recommend
you
that to
have
anybody.
to don't watch it.
Yeah.
William says. You reminded me. I actually watched a movie. It was in the category of like the shitty low rent movies that I don't talk about, but I kind of like this one. It's called Yellow Brick Road, sort of all one word, I think. And it's not quite found footage, but it's in that camp. So there's this small town in New Hampshire, and in 1940, the entire town just walked out of town and walked out this trail and was never seen again. And in the present day, these people are like, we're going to write a book about this. And so they get a crew together and they go out to look at it and see what they can find, and hijinks ensue. I give it 3 out of 5 stars because it's a good solid time and good performances, and it has good tension. For being low budget, it doesn't particularly look it. Although there is one time where someone just walks off a cliff and you see it from a distance, and like as soon as they fall, it really does kind of just look like they photoshopped that person just to keep. I backed it up because I was like, really? Come on. But it's only 3 stars because you don't ever understand what the fuck is happening at the end. It's one of those like, oh, it's scary. I don't know why what's happening. And so I'm disappointed in that because I like my mythology to have some semblance of understanding. But I was pretty pleased all around. It is pretty interesting. So if you like that kind of shit, I think it's on Prime for free. Yellow Brick Road.
Yeah, we watched some other stuff, but I don't remember.
I really need to keep better track. This format doesn't tell me how long we've been recording, so I always have to approximate when I think you showed up. But I think we're getting close. So let me draw a thing out of the thing. Oh, we never explained how the show works. It's what you just saw, plus I'm going to draw a question. So
yep,
that's it. But write more in. We need more stuff in the thing. TheMagicalTalkingHead@gmail.com. Oh.
It doesn't do anything weird when you don't have your background. It's just
no. Oh, you can't see me. No. This is from Craig.
Okay.
Probably the only other person who can watch The City and the City. So it has an actor named David Morrissey as the lead actor, who I remember from a Doctor Who Christmas special where he was this guy who thought he was Doctor Who, but he's not. But what's amazing is he looks and sounds almost exactly like Liam Neeson. It's freaky. Anyway, Craig asks, are there any classic novels you would like to see adapted for TV or cinema? I would like to see someone do an adaptation of The Count of Monte Cristo because it just has never happened, and I feel like it's time. That is a hilarious joke if you're aware that The Count of Monte Cristo is the single most adapted piece of literature in history.
Yep, that's true. Or at least I think that's true.
It was as of a few years ago, at least. Maybe, I don't know, there've been a shit ton of Frankensteins recently, so maybe they caught up. I don't know. But the point is there's like well over 30 adaptations of The Count of Monte Cristo, including at least one anime.
I would like to see adaptations of things like Frankenstein and Dracula and
That's the thing. I'm like, there are things that have had adaptations that I'd like them to do a good one of.
yeah, that's exactly right.
Um,
That's what I mean. I'd
we
like to
still
see
haven't
one that I
fit
actually
Chronicles of Narnia on the like. We still haven't hit it perfect. I would like a
sure
better version of
for
that.
sure like that's right. So there's lots of adaptations that have been done that I would just like to see better. What they've never made an adaptation of, I don't think I have it up here because I think I loaned it.
Whatever you're about to say has to be considered a classic novel, so I'm getting ready to judge you.
Uh,
It said classic novels.
okay, well, maybe I don't. Maybe you should tell me what a classic novel is.
I know them when I see them.
It, someone wrote a screenplay a long time ago for I, Robot,
That'll count.
and I have it here somewhere published, and it's pretty good. I mean, it's all right. I think Asimov approved of it. I think he liked it, but they never made it.
You cut left here though at the obvious one. Foundation could make a great like TV adaptation or something.
I was going to mention that one, but I've always been worried about, like, I don't know. I can't.
You would have to update it, and that would change it.
Which is fine, but it's.
But I mean, but it would be a tricky thing. It is very much a piece of its time period. Like, I liked it, but it is not timeless.
No, but also one of the things that's always concerned me about the Foundation stuff, all of it, even the robot novels, because I mean I'm talking about iRobot, but that's only because I've seen a screenplay that someone wrote,
and because we've seen a movie version of it that sucked.
Yeah, and so maybe the iRobot stuff, but just about anything else, because really the Foundation stuff and the robot stuff and the Empire stuff are all part of one big thing, And
allegedly.
Well, I mean, I've read them all, and they all fit together, I thought, really well.
Yeah. Supposedly late in life, he had to sort of shoehorn some things in. But
oh, sure, yeah. There's no question about that. But I thought it worked okay. But anyway, the point is, just speaking of the Foundation specifically, but this pretty much applies to the rest of them too. They're not cinematic, really. There's no action scenes. There's
no, but this is why I see it as a series. It doesn't have to be a cinematic series. It essentially can be a political drama sort of series.
I mean, I guess you could sort of Game of Thrones it a little bit, but even then, you don't have any. It seems like you'd have to have something like a battle or something.
And it does have a very anthological nature to it because there's so many. It's built of bits and pieces. It's built of slices of this timeline and this world. So that does complicate things.
That's exactly another problem is for a lot of viewers, especially if it was a TV show, just when you think a character or situation is getting interesting, it's done. We're 10,000 years into the future now, and we're never going to talk about those characters again,
Yeah.
So it's like, people won't like that. So it seems like, other than modernizing it, like you're saying, there would have to be so much work done to adapt it to modern audiences to actually like it, that it might not even really resemble that much the original material.
Yeah.
But maybe that's okay. I don't know. But yeah, whenever, because I love Asimov stuff. Obviously, I love the Foundation stuff. But I have never, even when I read it in the day, and certainly since then, it's never struck me as something that would lend itself to a visual, maybe a comic book. But then you think, well, if you could make it a comic book, you could make it a movie or TV show, because the comic book is basically the storyboard. But I think you can get by with certain storytelling in comic books, even still, that you can't get by with in film and TV, I think. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I have a harder time seeing it as a comic book myself. Sorry, I wasn't ignoring you. I just came up with something and I suddenly remembered I couldn't remember the author's name, so I had to look it up. Um, one that stuck me for a while, and I mean, maybe I'm pushing the definition of classic here, but Craig's also from the UK, so I'm hoping he knows this one, and then we'll think it is a classic. Susan Cooper wrote a series of 5 children's books called The Dark is Rising sequence.
Okay.
They are some of the best children's books I have ever read.
Mm.
I love them dearly. One was a Newbery Award winner, and one was a Newbery honorable mention or whatever. And years ago, they made the second one, which in my opinion is the best one, as a movie, as a mainstream theater movie. It's called The Dark is Rising. Or to be more accurate, when I saw the first trailer for it, many months before it came out, it was called The Dark is Rising. And then later, when I saw later trailers for it, it was called The Dark is Rising, The Seeker. And then by the time it was in theaters, it was called The Seeker, which is not what the book is called. And it was a terrible adaptation. Really bad. The very first book is called Oversea Under Stone, and it is about some precocious children having a summer holiday at the Cornish seaside. And they, it's like the Goonies, like they find a treasure map and shit happens. And then The Dark is Rising is a seemingly unrelated story about a young man coming into his both heritage and sort of supernatural powers via the help of a person who is a character from the first book. The third book brings those parties all together, and then we go from there. And it's a great series, and it borrows heavily from British mythology, go figure. And it's just, it's a very old version of the precocious children find a secret kind of genre. And it gets suitably supernatural, and I enjoy that. There's the dark and the light, and there's agents and forces of both and things like that. And it's just really good, and I was so excited when they made that movie, and that movie sucked so bad. For all that it had Ian McShane in it, it was terrible. So yeah, I would like to see that one. That whole series. Make 5 of them. But so many people haven't heard of it, and so then it becomes an original property, and we all know those don't make money. Speaking of which, apparently Artemis Fowl sucks.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
Hard. That's a bummer.
Well, when cinema first started, and then later television, adapting books was a big deal. I mean, that was a thing you did. New ones, old ones. It's kind of hard to think of a book.
Short ones, fat ones.
It's kind of hard to think of a book that hasn't. I mean, Asimov's stuff, obviously, but most classic science fiction has been adapted at least once. A lot of the.
Has Anne McCaffrey's stuff been adapted?
Oh, I mean, I've never read any of that, but
totally doable now. Like back in the day, there could have been arguments for difficulties with the effects.
Yeah.
But that's super doable now. And admittedly, as someone who tried to read them several times and wasn't that into them, like it's a hell of a series. It's a hell of a universal oeuvre. I mean,
really popular, and you would think, again, cinematic, you would think.
Tons of mythology going on there. It's great.
Yeah.
Somebody should jump on that. Maybe she's still alive. Maybe she's holding the rights. Maybe she doesn't want it. A lot of people say that they were disappointed to see their stuff get made, even when they had creative control, because some of it is like you just won't ever get the same impact.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it was done in the medium it was done in, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. I'd love to say any of N.K. Jemisin's stuff being done, but apparently the Broken Earth trilogy is in has already been sold to be done as a TV show. So
Well, that's the great thing about, you know, the rise of streaming services and stuff, and where you can make shows that are 60 minutes long. You don't have to worry about, oh, make them 45 or 43 because you have to put the ads in there. And
yeah,
you know, you can have these 10 episode shows, each an hour long, and maybe you can put them all out at once so people can binge them or whatever. I mean, and you give them a budget that's like a movie budget or whatever. It's like, wow, these TV shows like Black Sails is just amazing in every single way. The way it's shot, the way it's written, the way it's the acting in it. It's just
you know that
incredible.
guy
the
from
stuff they
Black
can do.
Sails, he's in Space Force.
That guy,
John Malkovich.
John Malkovich isn't in Black Sails.
I thought John Malkovich was in Black Sails.
No,
Hmm.
no, he's not.
Oh, he's in Being John Malkovich.
Yeah, he is in that.
Okay, sorry. I always mix those two up. All the time.
You're funny.
My friend who has spent his life being a fairly big fan of Warren Ellis, or at least a big consumer of his stuff, was telling me the other day that there's new allegations against Warren Ellis of sexual harassment and grooming and bad stuff like that. And he's telling me, and I'm like, that's terrible. And I hope, comes to light and there are consequences. But as somebody who consumes media, I don't care. I don't consume any of Warren Ellis's stuff. And he's like, no, but there's this. And I was like, dude, I don't consume his stuff so much that I still mix him up with Harlan Ellison. And I said that, and that means almost nothing to me, but I knew enough to know that would just like freak him out. He's like,
Right.
what? And I'm like, see, that's how little I care. I don't even understand why that bothers you that much. But I do mix the two of them up.
That's funny.
And occasionally Spider Robinson, which is weird because I think he's fictional, so it gets extra strange. And I think maybe one of them wrote it. I don't know. And see, this is how much I don't care. But yeah, I thought I had something in there. Oh, so because nobody can film shit right now, everybody's hurting for TV content.
Yeah.
So in August, the CW of all places gonna air 2 series worth of the British Taskmaster.
They are?
Yep.
I hadn't heard that.
I just found out today, which is not super useful for me directly because I don't get CW, but it's a U.S. licensing, which means I am that much closer to being able to find some way to pay to watch this shit in the U.S.
You don't get CW? What do you mean?
I don't have television.
Oh.
I don't have any channels.
Oh. Well,
For a long time now. Remember, I cut the cord. It was a very big deal.
okay. But I mean, your modem at home, is it a cable modem?
Yeah.
Well, for us, we didn't have cable either. We just had a cable modem. And then we found out that our bill would be cheaper if we also had basic cable.
No, we went through all of this. Our bill would definitely not be cheaper.
Okay.
Our bill's still too high, but no, I talked about this too. I had a whole saga where I had to call them several times because I was so pissed off and all this.
I remember all that, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's broadcast TV. It seems like you'd just be able to pick it up like on.
I possibly could if I plugged a coax into a television here. I could probably make it happen, but we don't watch TV. We don't have the setup for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just the most recent 2 seasons, which are the ones I haven't seen. But then again, just today was the 5th episode of series 6 on YouTube. So they're all coming around eventually. But
Can you get the CW app on your PS4?
and on my Roku TV, but then you have to go activate it, and then you have to prove you're a cable customer.
Oh, that's dumb.
I can't get any of that. I'm about to buy season 5 of Killjoys, and there's 1,000 places you can see it for free, but they all involve you having to prove that you subscribe to that particular channel. There's like 9 different channels that if I subscribe to one of them, I could watch it.
But
But
it's so weird though that if it's a broadcast channel, I mean, technically, I'm sure there is a way actually that regular broadcast TVs like the CW, you can watch. Like if you have a TV that's got a digital receiver or digital antenna or something, you can just pick it up, maybe.
yes,
But
there is the potential that I could get it with weird reception and potentially even just out of the coax thing if I had a TV and set it up like that. I don't. I am not desperate enough to watch these to rejigger the hardware in my house for possibly getting it.
I know, but what I'm saying is that if it's possible for you to figure out a way just to get it on your TV for free just because it's being broadcast on, if you're getting it through an app, you should also be able just to get it without proving you have cable.
Nope, that's how they get you, because they know you're not going to go through that trouble. And even if I did go to that trouble, then it has to be at the specific time. This is the benefit of being able to watch it when I want to. And that is a value add to actually paying for a subscription to their channel. Because I also could just fucking go, torrent it or whatever. But,
well, that's true. Yeah.
But I won't do that. Stop telling me that, William. Stop trying to get me to do illegal stuff. Your heart is bad.
I'm a TV pirate, arg. I have a bad heart, arg.
But if you prove to be brave, truthful, and courageous, someday you'll be a real boy. Yeah. Right now, you're just a real something. All right, people. That's it for this week. I will try and be more awake next week. If you have questions, and you know you do, there's so many questions that come from this. Please write them in, themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com, and go to the blog, themagicaltalkinghat.com, and play a game with yourself. How far you can read into a conversation between William and Jazz before you start punching yourself in the face. But also have your own comments in there. What I love is Gmail, when I get the things about the comments, it groups them together based on time. But sometimes that means I'm getting like the 6th comment in it, like way long, and it's making references to things that I haven't even seen yet. And then I go to look to them, and then there's a certain point where I'm like, what's the payoff going to be? I read all of this. I already know the last one is going to be something along the lines of William saying, yeah, good point, or it is a complex question, or something, or just right. Some of them, the last thing will be, so I'm like, I know how it ends. So do I have to?
I know how it ends.
Spoiler alerts for William. He dies at the end.
You know what I love about that is that's only a spoiler for me, I guess. Yeah. No, that's not a spoiler for anybody else. Nobody else dies at the end, just me.
That's the thing. Because that's where Trish came up with something about spoilers for William, and she's like, he dies at the end. So that's the thing. That's the spoiler for William. It's not the spoiler for all of humanity. That would be ridiculous. What would be the point of using that then? It's a specific spoiler.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's so weird. Oh, well.
Yes. We don't know what's going to happen to the rest of us. I asked somebody in a Zoom meeting today a question, and her literal response was, "What's the emoji like?" And I was like, "Thank you. That has really."
What's the emoji like?
She was like, "I can't remember what," and and I'm like, "You can just do that. It doesn't have to be an emoji. Also, thank you for your help."
What's the emoji like?
All right. So anyway, write into that thing, themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com. Go to the blog. Give us what for. This stuff sucks. Tell us why. Like, rip us a new one. We just want the page views. Come on. themagicaltalkinghat.com. And Blood Sparrow, come back to us. We love you.
Yep.
We just missed you. We aren't bothered. I mean, we're sad that you, but whatever. But just come back. We love you.
It's all good. We're cool.
All right. We'll see you people next week.
Next
Or
week.
you'll see us.
Yep.